Hello everyone! Today my fellow brother in crime, Godless Cranium, and I are learning about ibaadah. What is ibaadah? Well,
ibaadah is not an act, it's a state of being. Ibaadah is a maqam, it's a state of being. To be a slave. You'll reach the point where you understand, you internalize. I accept deep down inside that I am a slave and I have a master.
So ibaadah is the state of internalizing your own slavery. I go get the whiskey.
I am a slave and I have a master.
I long for the day when a religious leader will speak as glowingly of rational thought, reasoning, critical thinking, diversity of thought, and the examination of evidence as this one does about slavery. I won't hold my breath though. What he's advocating for is your subjugation to a group of ideas that can never be questioned. He has no decent evidence for his God, yet he literally wants you to voluntarily submit to your own enslavement. He thinks being a slave is virtuous, while I view it as abhorrent. Slavery devalues human beings, and it attacks human decency and dignity in the vilest of ways. I'm not sure why he thinks we should enslave ourselves to his brutal dictator of a god, or why he might think this a virtuous activity. Usually when I ask a believer about this, they will tell me it's because God is more powerful than we are, and since he created us, we owe him our subservience. To this I say fuck you. If your God did exist, of course he would be more powerful than I am. He could bend me to his will, torture me for eternity, crush my will to live, and rob me of any illusion of power I might think I once had. But I would not love him. I would hate him. I would loathe such a celestial totalitarian with every fiber of my being. And if there were a way to kill such an abomination, I would do so in a second. This being would not be something I would willingly enslave myself to. It would be something to destroy if possible, something to fight against at the very least.
And I'll be happy with that. Salat will get me there. And once I realize that, now I'm ready to do good. وَافْعَلُوا الْخَيْرِ. Then do good. Subhanallah.
Why the hell would you need to be a slave to do good? How are the two concepts even connected? This guy's actually saying that you're not ready to do good unless you first become a slave. I mean, let that self-loathing sink in for a second. Let it detonate in your mind. Not only is he saying you should enslave yourself to this god or this set of unquestionable ideas, but that he's happy with the state of affairs. He thinks it makes him a better person. Honestly, I've never understood this willingness to enslave oneself, this idea that it's a virtue to be dominated by another being. Anyone who has cracked a history book can easily tell you that slavery is not something to aspire to. It isn't something that should be glorified or repeated. It's an idea that robs another human being of their agency. It's cruel, unjust, and wicked. Yet religions often put forth this idea that we should be slaves to a god as if it's a virtue. Why wouldn't any god worth the title be one that values freedom of thought and movement? Freedom to come to your own conclusions. Freedom to do good for the sake of doing good alone, instead of for groveling points in its name, so you can attain some sort of eternal reward.
You and I will not be able to do any good for anybody until we realize that we are nothing but slaves.
Honestly, that's complete bullshit, and it's amazing you can even say such a thing with a straight face. You're telling hundreds of millions of people around the world that they're incapable of doing even one good act without first being a slave to your god. If you include people who believe in a different god into that equation, that would mean billions of people all over the world cannot do even a single good act without first being wrapped in the chains of Islam. What an absurd thing to say. You're saying that millions of people worldwide who might have studied medicine to help others, who volunteer to help others, who generously give their time and money to help others, who work in the social services to help others, who even just take a few moments out of their day to help another human being aren't capable of goodness because they don't believe in your particular deity. What a gross thing to say. What a dehumanizing concept that is.
And by the way, slavery, it should be mentioned, there is no job on this planet lower than slavery. There is no position lower than slavery. And there is no position higher than master.
That's better. So, let's start with the fact that slavery is not a job. You don't apply for 9-to-5 slavery and then go home and have a beer. That's what you call work. And before I go any further, I should also add that due to you, every human being is a slave to Allah.
Which woman is not the female slave of Allah? None of them. All human beings are the slaves of Allah.
So no one actually chose to be a slave. The only difference, in your opinion, is that the good slaves follow Allah's orders and the bad ones don't.
There is no position lower than slavery. And there is no position higher than master.
With an ideology as vicious as this one, are you really surprised that those worthless dissident atheist blogger slaves get butchered down for the crime of openly denying their master?
There's no position higher than master, there's no position lower than slavery. So when I say I've accepted myself as abd, then I've accepted there's no one higher than Allah and there's no one lower than myself.
You also accepted to submit to a being that, as far as most can tell, doesn't even exist, and to blindly follow its commands no matter how weird, senseless, or outright harmful they are. Pray and obey and be thankful, so you don't get whipped.
That's what I've accepted. And when I've come to terms with that internally, psychologically, not just as something I say, but something I've accepted deep in the soul of my being, then I am ready to do good. Now I'm ready to help others. وَافْعَلُوا الْخَيْرِ. And do good. And do good.
You can accept that concept all you want. I wish that you wouldn't, but I certainly can't stop you. I never will, and I'll continue to do as much good as I can before I die. I'm not perfect, but I'll never accept the concept that you must first become a slave before you're able to do good. I see too many people doing good around me who don't believe in a God. Not yours or any other. I'll not minimize or completely discount their contributions simply because they don't believe in a God. Their good works are every bit as valuable as a religious person's. Their kindness is every bit as appreciated as any God believers. Whether or not they believe in a deity is irrelevant to the discussion of how much good they're capable of accomplishing.
So what is the concern? If you really want to do work, you want to be a volunteer, you want to help in a cause, you want to volunteer for a da'wah program, an educational program, a Sunday school, an Islamic school, a media group, whatever it may be, whatever effort it may be, first get your ibadah in order.
Has anyone else noticed the focus of those so-called volunteer situations? I volunteer in a dawah program, working in a Sunday school, working in an Islamic school, and working in the media. No medic volunteers, no first aid volunteers, no blood donors. That is very, let's call it one-sided. I think it is time I ask my audience to internalize something too. Most Christians admit that there are non-Christians able to do good things. And that is because, due to them, good and bad is related to how you treat other humans. In his messed up little mind, however, good is a synonym for obedience. You are a good person if you obey Allah and mindlessly follow His rules. You are a bad person, however, if you have the audacity to think for yourself and, for example, disagree that your sister is supposed to get half as much as you do during an inheritance. In that case, you're just suddenly a horrible, vile, depraved creature.
And ibadah doesn't just mean the acts of worship, that's the starting point that leads you to the state of ibadah. And that will open the doors of goodness. Because that, you know what that means? Then your pride and my pride is gone. My concern for my image is gone.
So not only are you a slave to your God, and you have to do good the way He wants you to, but you can't even feel good about doing good because you're a worthless slave. Is it just me, or does this ibadah start to sound more and more like a BDSM manual for submissive people instead of an actual part of a religion?
All I care about is now making my master happy, that's it. That's all my mind. I got nothing else in front of me.
Yeah, make your master happy. You know, thinking about it, doesn't this give the whole whip your wife when she's naughty a very, very weird, interesting spin suddenly?
Do not hit the female slaves of Allah.
And when people say something to me that bothers me, I just leave it up to Allah. Ufawwidu amri ila Allah. I leave my matter to Allah. I'm okay. I just got to do work. Things don't get under my skin.
Why should it? We have already established that every human being is a super worthless slave to Mr. Imaginary Overlord. The old lady who complains that you shoved the door in her face and made her drop her shopping bags? Bah! Silly slave! Doesn't she understand that you have to go praise Allah right now? Oh, is there a woman getting raped in the park? Nah, no time to help. You need to do your dua for your master. She probably got the punishment from Allah in the first place for not submitting to his dress code. Oh, people draw silly pictures of the slave of Allah called Muhammad? Bah! He's just a slave of... Oh, never mind. He gets special treatment. Luckily, in reality, the vast majority of people, including many Muslims, don't think this way. In spite of this weird dogma, they value their fellow humans and actually help them because they just want to help.
It doesn't bother me somebody said something, I can't believe they said that to me, I'm never doing this again. Forget it, I used to volunteer and the people didn't appreciate me. Or that guy said this to me or that to me. You're a slave, people say things to whatever they want. You only have to answer to your master, that's it. If you want to complain, complain to your master.
First off, your supposed master is an immaterial, invisible, supernatural entity. It's pretty hard to complain to such a being. Hell, you can't even produce any good evidence for its existence, let alone offer a reliable method of communicating with such a being. Second, even if you could complain to this super being, why would it bother to even consider your complaints? You just admitted that it wishes to enslave you. You're a slave. Your opinion and complaints mean nothing to the slave master. You're nothing but a tool. Your humanity means nothing. You're not even able to do a good deed without this being's permission. Your thoughts and actions aren't your own. You must first be given permission by your celestial slave master for your deeds to have any merit. What a disgusting concept. Thankfully, there's no good reason to believe such nonsense.
That's it. You got no complaints with people left. You're fine. That's waf'alul khair. And then subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ, so you can attain true success.
Wait, you can attain success by being a slave? I think your interpretation of the word success is miles away from my idea of what it means.
What's beautiful about this ayah is what I started this discussion with. I said Islam is concerned with more than yourself. Remember that? Islam by definition is concerned with more than yourself.
So far in your speech, the only thing Islam seems to be concerned about is to enslave humanity.
If you say irka'u wasjudu wa'budu rabbakum, that's yourself. Make ruku', make sujood, be in a state of ibadah. But when he says waf'alul khair, do good, good helps who? Others.
Well, yeah, people generally do good for several reasons. In your case, it appears to be wanting a celestial award by your slave master. For other people, it may be to feel good about themselves, to give back to the community, to strengthen their community, family unit, etc. Or because they're capable of empathy. In other words, they're able to put themselves in the shoes of the person in need and empathize with their position. We're social animals, and giving back helps our species to survive. Your reason for doing good scares me a little bit, because it might signal a lack of empathy. People who are incapable of empathy have to find an external source of motivation, such as a reward and punishment system like your religion offers. What happens if one day you believe your slave master, Allah, is telling you that doing good requires you to smother infidels in their sleep? You're just a slave, right? In fact, you're a willing slave, who has already admitted that the only good a person can do emanates directly from your particular deity and is predicated on your enslavement to this being. You don't own the good deeds. You need this deity to achieve any goodness whatsoever. So why wouldn't you smother these filthy infidels if your Lord and Master commanded it? That's scary, and I often wonder what percentage of the population needs their particular religion in order to behave like civilized human beings.
Now, if you really want to be successful, then you have to help others. You have to do good for others. لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ, so you can be successful. And even if you do good for others, it's not for them, it's for who? Yourself. So our voluntary contributions in whatever way, shape or form are actually efforts to help our own selves. Don't ever should I dare look back at a masjid that I gave time to, a program, a convention I helped put together, a check I wrote to the school or whatever, and say I helped them. I only help myself. And the moment I say I help them, it doesn't count for me anymore. I cannot go to Allah and say, Ya Allah, where's the money I gave? Allah will say, you already said it, you helped them. You didn't say you helped yourself. You can't have it both ways. Allah only takes one intention.
In other words, don't you dare to help others because you just want to help or because helping fills you with joy. Unless you do it to get brownie points from Allah for yourself, your deeds are worth nothing to Allah. What a wonderful religion.
So if you're going to give, whether you give time, whether you give money, whether you give effort, whether you give suggestions, if you're going to give, you better only expect returns from Allah. You expect anything from anyone else, Allah doesn't like to share intentions. Allah is very jealous of intention.
Why the hell would a super deity be jealous of anything? That seems like a very human emotion and completely unworthy of anything I would label a divine being or God. And why would you expect any return from your slave master? I think you misunderstand what the word means. Slavery means that you're the property of another being. You are forced to obey your slave master. There's no room for expecting a reward. You aren't owed anything and therefore can't expect anything.
Subhanahu wa ta'ala, He wants His intention to be exclusive. You try to put anybody else, yourself, some other agenda in that intention, is gone. It doesn't count for anything. So you know how sometimes in Islamic organizations, especially because so many of our organizations are donation dependent. Masajid are donation dependent, schools are donation dependent, right? Da'wah organizations are donation dependent, publishers are donation dependent. People write a big check, somebody writes a $20,000, $30,000 check or something. And then all of a sudden shaitan comes to them first of all and says, Mabruk. And then he says, hey, by the way, why don't you give them a suggestion about the color of the carpet? I mean, after all, you wrote a big check. You should at least have some weight in your opinion. And so you go and you give a suggestion. You didn't give a suggestion before you wrote the check, but all of a sudden, now your opinion just got $30,000 heavier.
Yeah, man, don't let shaitan destroy your brownie points with Allah. If you think their carpet is old and you still want to go to heaven, skip giving them money and skip giving them your opinion and just donate them a fucking carpet.
So you want to give an opinion, and you're expecting that your opinion will be taken a lot more seriously. Now, why? Because you gave some money. Then your intention for giving the money was not Allah anymore. It was just to get your opinion to weigh a little more. That's all you will get out of that sadaqah.
Why is it an either-or scenario? If your hypothetical donor donated $30,000, he may have given the money because he believed in the organization and the work they do, and wanted that work to continue. Maybe they also believed that Allah wanted them to donate that money. Maybe they wanted to help the organization, wanted Allah's approval, and wanted to have their opinion about the color of the carpet be taken seriously. If this were the case, why would wanting their opinion about the color of the carpet invalidate the other reasons they may have donated the money? Is Allah incapable of nuance? Is this deity so blinded by jealousy that it's incapable of considering multiple motivations at the same time?
That's all you'll get. Is it worth it? Think about that. Just think about that. Before you ruin the sadaqat you give, in any cause. Wallahi, in any cause. Don't tie your contributions to expectations.
I'm sorry, but that is utter nonsense. While donating money doesn't grant you any say what happens with it, you will always have a certain expectation tied to that donation. If you give money to an elementary school, you expect it to benefit the children educated in there, no matter if that means new equipment or paying the bill for the wiki cleanup. If you donate to a foundation that feeds starving people in Africa, you expect people in Africa to be fed, and not elephants in India getting polished instead. The only people who don't care what happens with the money are the ones who donate because they want to save taxes, are the ones who donate because they want to get brownie points from some invisible sky daddy. Neither of which I would consider an altruistic deed.
If you want to have expectations, have them with Allah. Personally, when I ever write a sadaqah check, I just to remind myself, I just write a little word on top. Ma naqasa malum min sadaqatin. Mal never goes to child.
Thank you, Ice, for the opportunity to join you in this video. It's much appreciated, and I had a lot of fun working on it. I wish you the best of success with your channel. If you enjoyed this video, please go check out Iseth's channel and hit that subscribe button. She makes amazing content. Take care and cheers.